I think so. One of them was when Ela and I wrestled at Beyond, and I can't remember the show name. It was a couple of years ago, and I think we had probably been away for a little bit, and we came back, and the crowd A was chanting KOD, which was fantastic, but B
Nice.
like singing our entrance music. Like, I mean, who don't want to sing Paramore, right? I mean, I'm definitely biased, but it's my favorite band. But even after the music cut off, like they were still singing, and I was like, fuck yeah, and not so much like, hey, we belong in wrestling, but like more so like, hey, we belong here, we belong in this promotion, we belong in Beyond Wrestling, and that
Women's
was
Wrestling Talk, the number one women's wrestling network on the planet.
Bonjour, you're watching Women's Wrestling Talk, the number one women's wrestling show on the planet. My name is TK Trinidad, and today we have an amazing show, and of course, nothing but amazing guests. She is the submission sniper, daddy of destruction, and the ankle breaker. Please welcome Jordan Blade. How are you doing?
what is going on. I'm doing well. How are you?
I am good. So I have a very important question for you. So
Yeah.
last year you were ranked 281 on the PWI 500. This year you're ranked 270. So how does Jordan Blade celebrate?
Man, so I think I found out while I was at work, so I had to be kind of like subdued about it. So a couple of my coworkers watch pro wrestling, and they know I'm a pro wrestler, and so I told them, and I was just like, we just kind of were like jumping up and down, like yay, yay, in the middle of work, and everybody's on the phone and all that. But man, as far as like celebrating, I mean, I posted it on my socials, and everyone was super happy for me, but to me it's like awesome, yes, let's celebrate, it's great. And then it's back to the grind, like I said. So
I mean that's like a okay. I'm trying not to judge people in their celebration, but I feel like there should be more. That's an improvement, and the fact that you were also ranked on the women's 250 and the tag team. That's like I feel like it's like almost like an EGOT because not everybody could do that.
yeah, for sure. I'm wondering now, like, because I was on all three, I think last year, the 500, 250, and tag team. So I'm
Mm-hmm.
like wondering who else has done that. I know someone else has. Maybe Delmi Exo, maybe.
Maybe I have to
Um,
double because when I saw that, I'm like, I wonder. I need to check that out. So didn't have enough time to check it out. And sorry, my dog is she
Oh,
wants
hi,
to
baby. Yeah, she want to
she
make a cameo. Yes, you can make a
cameo
cameo whenever.
as per usual. Anyways, yeah, you're now in the you're here. You're here.
She just
Just
wants some
crazy.
attention. She's so.
Um, I know. Speaking of animals, that was one of the questions I did have. So I heard in one of the interviews you have three cats and a dog. Between all three of them, is there like a favorite? Because some people say they don't have a favorite child, but they really do.
Yeah.
Do you have a
So
favorite between the three?
yeah, so that had actually expanded to 5 cats and a dog.
Okay.
Um, but yeah, so of course, yeah, absolutely had a favorite. Juliet was our black cat, um,
Mm-hmm.
and I remember my wife at the time, she had Juliet prior to us getting married. And she had Ducky as well, who's a Siamese cat, and she was like, "Hey, do you mind if I, bring my cats that I had into the house?" And I'm like, "Yeah, sure." Like, I'm not allergic. I like cats. I was a dog person, and
Mm-hmm.
she was like, "Hey, I'm just warning you. Like like Ducky loves everyone, but Juliet, she's hit or miss." And I was like, "Okay, we'll see or whatever." And first day Juliet met me, she came right up to me, sniffing me, and then we were like best buds since.
Oh,
That's
nice.
yeah, that I love her. I have so many pictures on my phone of her, and I routinely run out of storage on my phone. So I'm like trying to figure out what apps to delete or what photos to delete or whatever. And I'm like, I do not delete any photos of
Oh,
Julie. That's
geez.
my
Yeah.
baby. That's my baby.
It's yeah. It's you never. I was a dog person. Well, I am a dog person. I hadn't had a dog for a long time, and I just got her, and she's just spoiled. way
You
like
gotta spoil them. They're our babies.
they are, but it's society. It's one of those things. But anyways, we could. I know we can go off in a tangent and talk about animals for a whole hour. But I will not. I will not do that to you. But another question I have. It's so you've been a part of a lot of different promotions, Mission Pro and Women's Wrestling Army. It's kind of the two that that I want to highlight. Both of them. I don't want to say it's run their course because both of them have said that they do plan on coming back. So, you know, from your perspective as a wrestler, do you think it has to do with the fact that they're all women promotions? You know, is it funding? And it's kind of one of those questions like, how do you solve the world? But you're really not in the position to. But what do you think is the issue, or how do you know? Do you have any suggestions?
Right, and those are two that I loved and love dearly, just because of the passion you could see. You know, Mission Pro with Thunder Rosa and her team, and Women's Wrestling Army with Maria Kanellis and her team. You
Mm-hmm.
could see the passion there. And you know, everyone kind of has, you know, their ventures that they're going on and going through outside of just Mission Pro or outside of just Women's Wrestling Army. Obviously, we know Maria's with, you know, AEW Ring of Honor,
Mm-hmm.
and you know, Thunder Rosa's also with AEW. So as for why, like, you know, there was a hiatus, I truly have no idea. You know, I'm sure it's a lot to balance, basically work and a business.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that could be it, but you know, I can't speak to, like, you know, the actual reason there. I do think there is excitement and a want by the fans for a more women's wrestling, and b
Mm-hmm.
more women's only wrestling promotions. So you see it with places like Uprising, women's athletes with Dreamwave. They're doing really great stuff. uh,
Mm-hmm.
so and I think you can tell by the crowd size and by the reaction on social media for these promotions and for these matches, like the fans are invested. So yeah, I feel like there's like a plethora of reasons why, you know, those two in particular, Mission Pro Women's Wrestling Army, are on kind of a hiatus right now. And obviously, I think it was last year or 2 years ago, obviously Shimmer, you know, kind of closed their doors.
Mm-hmm.
So I think part of it too is it's like people want to support it. And
Mm-hmm.
I think people obviously are limited in how much they can support it. I mean, you know, eggs are $9 right now, or however expensive they are, you know. Um, so I think part of that too is kind of people just, you know, I think they're still consuming wrestling,
Mm-hmm.
but they kind of have to pick and choose. Like, okay, do I want to feed my family, or you know, do I want to go to this wrestling show that, you know, could be anywhere from like $10 to $50, like depending on,
Right.
you know, who's on the show, what the area is. So there's a lot of different factors there, and I wish I did have like one single answer. And so Shimmer could come back, and Mission Pro and Women's Wrestling Army could come back, but I think it would take a village, and would take a team, which they all have, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's definitely all great products. I was just, you know, it's curious because obviously Women's Wrestling Talk, and we started in 2017. And when I first started, I thought we're gonna run out of wrestlers, but now there's just so many women's wrestlers, which is great to see. And then seeing the expansion on, you know, bigger platforms, but you know, seeing the Mission Pro and Women's Wrestling Army and WOW and stuff like that, it's just kind of like, okay, well, what's going on. And you know, of course, you know, I don't have the answers, but you know, somebody who's been with both of them, you know, maybe there's something that you saw or encouraged, or you know, I see some people that say there's no need for women's only promotions. um and you know, I can see the argument on both sides. You know, it's like, well, we can be all inclusive and all this other stuff, but I really love a good, like, you know, Evolution was good, Mission Pro was like, it's just, I love a good, you know, women only promotion. But again, like you were saying, support. If you just even look at the major promotions, you pay for ROH, you pay for, you know, Hulu, you pay for Netflix, you pay for all that. You're paying essentially what essentially was cut the cable. What was that, like 10 years ago when that was a thing? Now we're
Right.
just
Yeah.
essentially paying cable, which is
It's
insane.
right. Essentially. Yeah. I think one of my friends on Facebook was saying, I think the other day, where it's like, I'm paying for all these subscriptions, and I might as well just have a cable subscription, just my local
Hmm.
cable provider, like for all these subscriptions. So yeah, it's insane. Especially all the ways that you can consume wrestling. Like you got
Hmm.
IGTV, you got Fight or Triller,
Triller, yeah.
you got Title Match, you got I mean, you got YouTube, you got Peacock for WWE, you got
Hmm.
Ring of Honor, you got TNA
Um,
Plus or whatever. There are
yeah, they just added theirs. It's just like,
everything is on different platforms, and I'm like, can we please,
yeah,
I
yeah.
can we please just be on one platform? I will pay a flat fee
Hmm.
or whatever I need to pay.
Yeah,
But I'm just y'all are killing me with these damn
yeah.
subscriptions. So
It's probably, if you want to do like all of them and plus support your local indie, you're dropping at least like 250, 200 a month.
easy, easy, yeah. And
So
you don't realize it until you're looking back on your credit card statements. You're like, what am I spending? Where
yes.
did my money go? So
Yes. Okay. You are going to. Okay. Um, so kind of let's start a little bit from the beginning. So you have a unique background with like, martial arts. How do you like kind of combine the two as far as wrestling and martial arts?
yeah, no, that's a good question. It took me a while to kind of figure that out, and that was with talking with different people. That was watching a lot of tape. So when I think about incorporating jujitsu into pro wrestling, I think that the main thing to take from jujitsu that you can put into your wrestling is obviously the flashy stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So everyone loves the flying arm bars. Everyone loves kind of like what myself and Matt Mikowski do, the rolling, get your opponent to a waist like you roll through into the rear naked choke, something that's
Mm-hmm.
super flashy. People aren't really going to like or fully appreciate if I hit this cool ass sweep from close guard. Like they're not going to care, which is fine.
Mm-hmm.
um you know and people can relate to, most people anyway can relate to getting punched in the face. People can relate to maybe they can't relate to like being in an arm bar per se, but they can probably relate to like having their arm hyperextended or something like that. So incorporating things that people can relate to as well as a big factor. So I would say the two most is just the flashy stuff that you can do
Mm-hmm.
safely, and also just making sure that people understand what you're going through. Like I can't. Most people may not understand, how I don't know how hard like being in like a power half is or something like that. They're just not gonna know.
Mm-hmm.
So you gotta have something that's relatable. So not only in with your character, but also again like what you're making the people feel, or what you're telling the people what you think or what your
Yeah.
opponent is feeling in the ring. So
Yeah. Cause almost like if you make it so fluid, it almost looks easy. And
mhm.
then you realize, like, versus, like you're saying, getting punched in the face, like, nah, like you either felt it or you can kind of you can kind of relate to that. So
Right.
definitely get that. I definitely have a appreciation for, because some of the stuff y'all do, not some of the all the stuff y'all do is a whole situation. That's why I'm this side of things.
Right.
It's a lot of work.
It
Um,
is.
yeah, wrestling's known for its ups and downs. So looking back, what was the most defining moment of your career where you truly felt like this is where I belong?
Damn. Okay, that's a good question. Wow. I think so. One of them was when Ela and I wrestled at Beyond, and I can't remember. I can't remember the show name. It was a couple of years ago, and I think we had probably been away for a little bit, and we came back, and the crowd A was chanting KOD, which was fantastic, but B
Nice.
like singing our entrance music. Like, I mean, who don't want to sing Paramore, right? I mean, I'm definitely biased, but it's my favorite band. But even after the music cut off, like they were still singing, and I was like, fuck yeah, and not. not so much like, "Hey, we belong in wrestling," but, like, more so like, "Hey, we belong here. We belong in this promotion. We belong in Beyond Wrestling." And that was something that early on in my career, I was like, "Man, I wanna wrestle for Beyond Wrestling." And it's like, you wanna have the confidence to know, like, "Okay, yeah, I'm gonna get there eventually." Like, you don't wanna
Hmm.
have any self-doubt, but self-doubt does tend to creep in where it's like, "Man, am I ever gonna wrestle there?" And Ela and I got to wrestle there consistently, for a long time, and I think that stretch of time where we were on Beyond shows consistently, um, I would say actually that that kind of solidified, okay, we belong here. Like we're coming out, we're getting reactions, you know, we're getting good matches. Um, and yeah, I think that whole stretch right there, especially when Ela and I were in a program with Trisha Dora and Shug D,
Hmm.
that was super super fun, and I really enjoyed working with them. Always enjoy working with them. So I would say that that run probably was one time.
Nice. And so, can you describe the emotions and experiences of your first ever match compared to how you feel in the ring today? Like, how's the mindset evolved over time?
Well, I'm still nervous as hell before I walk out. That has not changed.
I heard that's a good thing though, because when you
Yeah,
stop being nervous, then you're really like not for it anymore.
yeah,
Like
you
you,
don't care. Like, I mean, why do it? You know. Um, so, oh my goodness. I think just knowing what the hell I'm doing in the ring, and I know that that seems obvious, but I'm way more sure of myself now. Like
hmm
2017, little baby Jordan Blade didn't know who she was. Um, I came out in generic wrestling gear, looking like generic wrestler number 57.
hmm
Like most wrestlers do. I mean, they don't really know themselves, but I didn't really have an identity. Again, I was just a generic wrestler. But now, yeah, as you've seen, as I've evolved over time, now I'm the submission sniper.
hmm
Now, I'm because I started training jujitsu after I made my debut in professional wrestling. So a lot of people think it's the other way around. So got way more proficient in jujitsu, incorporating that into my professional wrestling and being stalwart and sure in the type of professional wrestling that works for me and that I enjoy. Um,
hmm
because obviously I enjoy, a lot of grappling. I watched the Claudio Castagnolis, I watched the Brian Danielsons, I watched the Nigel McGuinnesses, I watched a lot of like early 2000s Ring of Honor. Um, so I was just watching Dean Malenko matches yesterday. So that's the type of wrestling that I like.
hmm
That's the type of wrestling that I like to do. I appreciate all different types of wrestling, lucha, death match, you know, any other type of wrestling, but that's grappling is my bread and butter, and I don't need to conform in
Right.
order to fit in.
So, kind of going back to when you first started. So, it's kind of like representing the LGBTQ plus community, and then also being a Black woman. Um, in some ways it seems like wrestling is accepting for all, and then there's some days it doesn't seem like that's the case. So when you first started, did you feel like there was a place for you, and then comparing to now, do you think it's changed? Because you have people who placate, they say, oh, we're all about diversity, but then behind the scenes it's something a little bit different. So
Yeah,
what's your experience been?
yeah. So I definitely think um, it's become more inclusive over my career. Then obviously we still have work to do, right? I think the Indies especially has done a great job in becoming more inclusive, and I think setting the tone, kind of providing the blueprint
Mhm.
for the bigger companies to go ahead and be more inclusive and not just, oh hey, it's June, happy Pride, like let's change our
Right.
logo to be rainbow for a month, whatever. Let's finally showcase more of our LGBTQ plus wrestlers this month and then forget about them, once it
The rest of
turns
the year,
July.
yeah. Mhm.
So I think with the addition of shows like Big Gay Brunch and Effie being such basically a worldwide sensation, honestly.
Hmm.
Um, with the addition of Big A Brunch, with the addition of For the Culture, with the addition of Black Girl Magic,
Hmm.
with the addition of places like Battle Club Pro, who've been running for a long time, but they really highlight Black wrestlers. Same with Fight Club.
Hmm.
So same with Paradigm. So a lot of these promotions, I feel, are setting the tone again for these bigger promotions to follow suit in more meaningful ways.
Hmm. Now, do you feel, and the reason I'm going to say this because I just finished watching a Charles Barkley interview, and he was referencing this commercial he did about like not being a role model. So this is why I'm asking it. Do you feel like you're a role model? Because in the indie shows, it's you have an interesting makeup, and I feel like a lot of kids go there because they can almost touch and see the wrestlers and have personal interactions with them. So do you feel like you're a role model? And if you do you want to be a role model?
Yeah, so it's so odd, like thinking about, yeah, like some of these kids or some of these adults look up to me. And it's very surreal when people tell me that, because I've had fans come up and tell me that.
Hmm.
And it's so humbling. And I think it's one of the best things about being a professional wrestler. And yeah, that is one thing I set out to do in being a professional wrestler, was to be a role model, because I started watching wrestling in 2005.
Hmm.
And there weren't a lot of female wrestlers that looked like me. Um, you know, with I started watching WWE first. So there weren't that many women's wrestlers that were kind of like out of the mold. So that's why I gravitated towards women's wrestlers like Lita, or
Hmm.
like Beth Phoenix, at least within WWE, like Natalia, who are fantastic wrestlers, but maybe not the most feminine, or maybe didn't fit, the typical diva
Right.
stereotype. Nothing against divas. Again, I love Maria Kanellis. I loved Ashley Massaro, R.I.P. I loved all those divas too. But as a fan who was like, man, I want to do this for a living, knowing that I was not going to look like that, and I
Right.
was not going to be comfortable looking like that. Um, I was like, man, okay, I need to try to look for people who look like me. And it was a long time till I found anyone that kind of looked like me. So probably the closest I feel would be Mercedes Martinez.
Mm.
It was
Hmm.
someone I absolutely look up to. And OG, I still want that match champ. But anyway, so just call it, just calling my shots here now.
Look, I mean, there have been people who call their shots and matches have happened. So I'm just
I'm just, hey, Mercedes Martinez, let's go. But yeah, she's someone that I early on, I one of the first ones that I looked up to, where I was like, okay, that looks like me. Maybe I can do this. Maybe I can be successful at this, doing it
and
my way.
do you find with promotion, it feels like you're establishing certain promotions that they know who you are, you keep getting invited back, etc. But do you find with new promotions there's the stereotypes, or do you think that's changing as well?
Yeah, so I think that's changing as well. And, I've been fortunate to go to different areas or territories, if you want to call them that, over the past year. So, West Coast with West Coast Pro, and then most recently DOA Pro, and then over to the UK. So, those crowds are different,
Hmm.
and I appreciate it, especially over in the UK, where they definitely appreciate, or at least I feel, appreciate my style of wrestling, maybe a little bit more than American fans, and that's no slight to American fans. That's just kind of the style of wrestling that thrives overall, typically
Hmm.
in the UK,
Yeah.
is that kind of mat-based grappling, kind of gritty style. And then you have your, Johnny Saints and your rollerball Rockos. But so I think they're accepting. At least I don't feel like there are any stereotypes when I go to new places. I think it's more so of, hey, we really like this wrestler who
Hmm.
we've never seen before and is different and wrestles different than either anyone else on the card or, other women that may be on the card. Hey, she's different. Let me pay attention. I like this.
So that kind of speaks to, because you've had like so many different people that you have matches against, and they've kind of pushed you to your limit, especially, competing on singles and tag teams. Does kind of having different matches with people who have more experience, has that changed your approach to wrestling?
Man, that's a good question. I wouldn't say so. I think it doesn't change my approach as in at technical wise, as far as like thinking about a match and putting it together in my head.
Mm-hmm.
It more so affects my psyche because I'm like, man, I am wrestling someone like Masha Slamovich, right? So I am like, okay, I gotta get up to her level. I gotta be on her level. So it's awesome wrestling people who are better than me or more
Mm-hmm.
established than me or what have you, because I learned so much from them, and it pushes myself to be better, because I don't want to let them down, and
Right.
obviously I want to have a good match for myself, but I also want to have a good match for them as well. So it's exciting, but it's also nerve wracking. It's also like the coolest thing ever, but it's also like I'm like screaming, crying, throwing up because I'm so nervous. So just a lot of I think feelings going into wrestling people who are better than me. But I love it. I love the challenge.
I mean, yeah, I mean, they're going to force you to grow. So, like, looking into the future, what's your ultimate vision for Jordan Blade in professional wrestling? Like, do you have a dream, as far as a promotion or a title, or to compete for something? Like, what's your? Because it's interesting when I talk to different wrestlers. Sometimes it's a certain promotion. It's like, okay, I've made it. Sometimes it's a certain title. It's like, okay, I've made it. What's your vision? What's the ultimate goal for yourself?
Oh, ultimate goal is WWE. That hasn't changed in God. I won't date myself, but it hasn't changed since I was 12 years old. And that's been the ultimate goal. Now, along the way, obviously, I have different goals. So, obviously, going back over to the UK,
Mm-hmm.
going to Japan, um, wrestling in Australia would be dope. But being a regular in places like West Coast Pro or Prestige Wrestling or Deadlock Pro down in North Carolina, um, you know, those are kind of like in comparison to getting to WWE, like along the way, those are kind of like smaller goals
Mm-hmm.
for me. But yeah, it typically is places, titles. I mean, titles are dope, and obviously, like I want to be WWE Women's Champion, right? Or NXT Women's Champion, but
Right.
the places, the experiences, the just being able to perform at WrestleMania, like stuff like that. That is what just like getting goosebumps right now thinking
Yeah.
about it. But that's what sets my heart and my soul on fire.
Yeah, I mean, when you think of, I mean, the big three, when they came down, or when they came up, did they come up or they came down? When it was Bianca, and Jade, and
Yeah.
they came to WrestleMania, like I can only like imagine
Oh my
like
god.
that. If that feels like a Beyonce moment, you know what I'm saying? Like it's
Yep.
just like
That's a great. Yeah,
like
absolutely.
it's just kind of it's absolutely crazy. So definitely. Now, with that being said, there's no blueprint. You talk to different people who've made it to WWE, and everybody's story is a little bit different. So have you gone to any of the tryouts, or if you want to give away, do you have like a game plan as far as how to achieve this goal?
Oh, that's a good question too. Yeah. So I mean, I've done a couple tryouts with West Coast Pro over the past year to try to wrestle for Marvelous in Japan.
Mm-hmm.
So you know, no's don't deter me. So I'm still gonna push. I'm still gonna try. Because I feel like my style lends itself well to the Japanese style of wrestling. I think
Mm-hmm.
it just fits in perfectly. So that's one of the reasons why I want to go over to Japan. So there's that, getting back over to the UK. So I think for me, more international exposure. And then I think, you know, maybe mosey my way down to TNA. Just, try to get my foot in the door there. Or, if if the performance center is having tryouts, try to get on there. But really, it's gonna be more exposure, and more exposure in bigger places.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I think that's kind of like that's the plan there.
Yeah, I mean, it also helps, being on that list for PWI, and it's a catch-22. There are people, there's so many wrestlers, but just to be acknowledged on that list, and obviously I don't work for WWE, but I feel like that those type of lists for people that you may have missed, it's just like, oh wait, let me just see. So that's and the fact that you're on 3 lists, you know, I feel like, whoever's listening, PW, there should be like some type of name for that. I'm just,
Right, is there like
putting it out
it's
there.
like a grand slam, the grand slam
Yeah,
PWI championship, like if
yeah, there
it
should be,
all
because there's only
three.
a few people on there, so I'm just, putting it out there. We'll
I've
find,
been,
we'll do the dive, and we'll find out how many people have been on the Grand Slam, and now that will be the list,
yes,
because it
and
can't. It's a short list. There's no way.
yeah, and Kevin McElvaney, if you're listening and you want to call it the Grand Slam PWI championship, first of all, I want my royalties. I want at least 50%. And then you better create a belt, and I'm gonna be the champion, the PWI Grand Slam champion.
Boom, there. I like it. I co-sign on all of that. A belt and like almost like an Oscar type award that could be placed somewhere. I'm just
Oh my god, I'm gonna start writing my acceptance speech. Thank you so much, Kevin.
so professional wrestling is both physically and mentally grueling. So can you share some of the hardest obstacles you faced, either inside or outside the ring?
Oh my goodness gracious. Yeah, so when I broke my ankle back in 2018, Um, that rehab now I've had another, surgery as well. I tore my ACL when I was in college, but that was, non-wrestling related. That was the hardest rehab I had, was the
Mm-hmm.
ACL, for sure. If I had to choose one, rather break a bone than tear a ligament or tendon. So rehab is just atrocious.
Yes. Yeah.
So but it took me 9 months after I broke my ankle, to get back to the ring, and to go from someone who's so active. So obviously wrestling, practicing jujitsu, going to the gym 4 or 5 days a week. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
to that, just me being so active up here to just wham, just just nothing for X amount of weeks, and then I couldn't drive, and that was
Oh
I
yeah.
drove. I drove people crazy because I was going crazy internally. I couldn't drive because it was my right ankle. I could do upper body, and that was about it. I hated asking people for help. So if I was at the gym, like I'd be like, "Hey, can you get that for me?" I don't like asking people for help. I don't like asking people for rides. I don't like being a burden. So I felt like a burden. So there was just a lot of emotions going on, and um, that was tough. So I would say that was probably the toughest thing that I had to kind of endure within my 7 years of professional wrestling so far.
I understand the not wanting, not asking for help, but there's lessons to be learned in even learning to ask for help, which is a whole nother, you know. I've read a self-help book, Kim, so whole
Right.
nother whole nother conversation.
I should probably talk to
Um,
a therapist about that too.
so in an industry that demands constant reinvention, how do you stay motivated to improve and grow as a performer? So especially when it's so competitive, because you have you made the list, you have the social medias of it all, you have so many wrestlers kind of putting out their stuff here and there, and I hear a lot of wrestlers say, I just want to wrestle, like just take me for my wrestling, but it's the marketing, the business side of it, and all that stuff. And then it's kind of like when you've been in the game for a certain period of time, like you have to still stand out to the, like you referenced it, you didn't want to be wrestler number 552. So how do you stay relevant and reinvent yourself after a couple of years?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. I will say there may be another reinvention coming soon, so just,
Okay.
yep. So just stay tuned. But yeah, so at least for me, I personally draw on personal experiences and who I am, because that's one of the things wrestling trainers will say is that, just be yourself, turned up to 11 or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But some people can't or don't want to do that, which is fine. And so they create a persona that is completely the opposite of who they are in real life
Mm-hmm.
or whatever. Like the one person that's coming to mind for whatever reason out of nowhere, Danhausen. Like I
Mm-hmm.
I doubt Danhausen is like that in real life, So but for me, again, I draw on a lot of personal experiences and what I like. So obviously, the ankle breaker, submission sniper, that was very much kind of like a gimme, right? So it's
Mm-hmm.
I practice jujitsu, and then kind of what you see is what you get. Um, without giving too much away, this next kind of iteration of Jordan Blade is still going to be based on, what I've gone through in life and things like that. So that's just going to be kind of like another layer peeling
Mm-hmm.
back of Jordan Blade. Um, but yeah, that's very much going to be reliant on personal experiences there. I don't think I think I'm outgoing, but I don't think I'm
Mm-hmm.
that outgoing to where I could be like someone completely different. But in another life, if I had more confidence, I would be probably a mix of like Cardi B and Joseline
Oh,
Hernandez from
what?
yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, man, that's like that's 1,000. Like, how do you even? Wow, I don't even know how you would.
So I have a weakness for trash reality TV,
Okay.
which is how like Cardi B got her start on Love and Hip Hop New York, I believe. I didn't watch that
Mm-hmm.
season. And
Yeah.
then Jocelyn Hernandez got her start on Love and Hip Hop Atlanta, which me and my best friend watched religiously. And it was just the things that would come out of her mouth. Like I'm like, how do you come up with this? Like this is so like dumb, but it's witty at the
Mm-hmm.
same time. And it's like how like there was one scene where Jocelyn was like she had the girl because she has Jocelyn's Cabaret right now
Mm-hmm.
on Zeus. And so she had the girls that were competing to be in her cabaret. I guess they were lined up or whatever. And one of them was coughing. And she was like, did you just cough at me? Like I'm some fucking germ? Like how did like what how did your brain compute to say that? And I was cracking up because it was so funny. But yeah, like I'm my friends know how extra I can be.
Uh-huh.
Um, so that's part of the reason. So yeah, in another life, if I also was a professional wrestler, my gimmick would be a mix of Cardi B and Jocelyn Hernandez.
I mean, I feel like so FYI, I actually worked for VH1 and we had to cover
Yo, what?
Love and Hip Hop. And so when they hired me, um, it was maybe I don't want to say a decade in, but I had to go back because I watched certain reality shows, but I didn't watch a lot of them. So I had to go back from like day one, season one, Love and Hip. So I watched all that up until Atlanta, which is when we came on to do the podcast. And the reason I'm saying this is now because when you shocked me a little bit when you said it. However, the reason I'm saying this is why wait till another lifetime? This is some this is something you actually could do. You can actually debut, but the thing is you have to because I oftentimes feel like I'm very like reserved, but I oftentimes feel like I wish I could channel somebody like that and just say whatever's on my mind and
Yeah.
not go through the filters. However, that's like essentially what they say is essentially what wrestling is.
Yeah.
So why wait until another lifetime? But I mean, it's just gonna be hard to turn it off. I feel like you have to almost turn off your sensibility. Not saying they're not sensible, so y'all don't come for me. But turn off your sensibility and your filters, and just
you're right. And I think that that's part of the issue for me, like being able to do it. I'm like, yeah, you gotta turn off your sensibilities. And
mm-hmm,
like it's just so out there. Like I truly I am so shy. Like I don't
mm-hmm.
think I would be able to do it in front of people. And I probably would start laughing too.
I feel like okay, because we might cut this out, but I'm just saying, I feel like I'm buying into this. And I feel like you have to almost, and I don't know how your wife is going to feel, but you almost have to inundate yourself with it and then start talking to the mirror. Because
Fair enough.
it was so I used to work for Xbox. I was on his show. That's how I started in this whole wrestling thing. And
Word.
we were interviewing Shelton Benjamin, and he was talking about John Cena.
Mm.
And he used to witness John Cena talk to himself in the mirror. That's over and over again.
Yeah.
So it's just kind of like, you know, again, you shocked me with this character. However, just buying into it's just more about channeling it. And then for it, it's almost like when you first started wrestling, right? Now we're 7 years in. So almost channeling it and really taking it down like this is what I'm going to do. I want, when you do this, please tag me.
I got
Please tag me in that promo.
I got
like
you.
just it.
See, now you gonna want 20% or whatever.
No, it's all you. I give people ideas all the time. This is all you. I just want to see it because it is when you, it's reality TV is kind of like, it's what you, it's, you know, people call it trash TV, but there are times where you find these gems where you're like, where did you, like, how did you come up with this sentence? Or like, that's what I really appreciate with wrestling, when people have some really good promos where you're just like, you know, because sometimes it's phoned in, but sometimes it's like, damn, like, how did you come up with this? Was this all you? Did somebody help you do that? You know, right. It's just all that stuff. So I want to see this.
I got you. We'll see if I can't come up with some promo or some vignette or something like that.
I mean, and you can even use, I mean, I don't know if you want to get political, but Cardi B is really into politics and stuff like that. That could be the jump off right there.
It could be. It could be. I mean, man, the stuff that comes out her mouth, man, bruh.
And sometimes she'll say weird words that don't even exist, but she says it with so much conviction. And I think that's what it is. I think that's because I think you and I have a similar personality where it's like, if you're going to say something, it has to be right. You're not just going to say something, you know, I'm an educated person. I'm not going to say, but
right.
People who don't care, they say it with all conviction, and you could correct them and like, yeah, I know, but they still say the word over again. Like, it's almost like you have to commit to the character.
Right. I mean, exactly. Yeah, so, I would not be able to half-ass that. No, for sure.
Yeah, no, you have to go all the way in, and almost I forgot what's like those acting term it is where they essentially pretend they're that person. I think it's the Meisner or whatever the terminology is, but that person, the actor literally turns off who they are and they channel this person in all the time. You might have to do that just to.
We'll see how that goes at work. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, there's gonna be a lot of people who are gonna have to deal with this because it's such night and day. Yeah. So then you're gonna have to learn. It's like almost like a different personality that you're gonna have to train yourself to turn on and turn off. But I want to see it. I'm just saying.
Hey, I got you. I
want to, that might be that moment where WWE's like, wait, like, is this the same? This is the same.
She's the same person, like from a year ago, or you know, whatever.
So I'll just, you know, we'll I'm just saying, just tag me when that happens. I want to see that. But also, speaking about your wife, how do you balance it? So you're a pet mom, you have a child, you have a wife, you work a shoot job, and you're a wrestler, and you train. How do you balance all that?
Yeah, so I mean, you know, this is one of those things where, you know, it's real life too, right? So, you know, I'm an open book, right? So, to be completely transparent, I am going through a divorce. So,
do you want me to cut that part out?
That's all good. It's real life.
Okay. Well, I'm sorry to hear that.
It's all good. Yeah. Hey, it happens. So, but yeah, so, well, with, you know, doing that, like I'm still, you know, wrestling and training jujitsu and working out. You know, last year I was around this time last year, towards the end of last year, I was like super depressed. Like it was tough, you know, with the separation and everything. And I am super lucky that I have my family to fall back on. I have a ton of really great friends. Luckily, born and raised in Richmond, Virginia, still here.
Mhm.
So I have a ton of support and a ton of friends from different friend groups. So my jujitsu teammates, some of my friends from elementary school, high school, college when I played Ultimate in college. So
Mhm.
um, I have a ton of support. So um, balancing that heaviness
Mhm.
with wrestling and with training, it was tough because there are a lot of days that I phoned in going to the gym. My diet wasn't where it needed to be. Uh,
Mhm.
and I think it's good for people to know that pro wrestlers are still real people and we still go through, uh, things that make us sad, or that make us depressed or
Mhm.
things like that. So, um, it's it was easier. I mean, there are days where it was tough, but having that support system, having your tribe there for you, I mean,
Mhm.
you can't put a price on that. So I really have everyone in my life, especially my mom, and my stepdad, my best friends, to keep me motivated and to pick me up when I'm down. So,
Right.
uh, yeah, so it was a lot. I'm doing better now.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
It's a balancing act.
yeah.
So were you able to, because you said you kind of phoned it in, so were you still able to, train and wrestle? You still did all that despite, damn, okay.
Yep, because wrestling is what I've wanted to do since I was 12.
Right.
And even though more often than not, um, the past more often than not the past year, honestly, the past 2 years, um, I've been depressed.
Mhm.
Um, Wrestling was one thing that made me genuinely happy, and you could see it even so in ring photos, that people would
Mhm.
take,
Mhm.
where you could see the joy still emanating from me because that was the only thing that was giving me, like, real joy. I mean, it wasn't the gym, it wasn't, unfortunately, even jujitsu, it
Mhm.
was wrestling. It was being somewhere that I felt that people cared,
Yeah.
and I could kinda turn off that part of my brain for 10 to 20 minutes,
Mhm.
and, all I was focused on was being in the ring and being present. So, wrestling really helped me, and everybody within wrestling really helped me through that time, and they still do. I have great friends that I've met through wrestling, so
Well, I mean, thankfully, and that's the good thing with, um, depression, and not the good thing with depression, but when you have an outlet, because when you don't have the outlet, that's when the not the great stuff happens. So, shout out to your tribe and your team, and you know, there's always wrestling. So that's a
yeah,
good
it's
thing.
always gonna be there. So no matter, like, because people, say they're gonna retire all the time, so
Hmm.
you if anyone is, like, struggling, you take the time that you need, wrestling's always gonna be here.
Hmm.
Uh, we're not gonna forget about you, so don't worry about that. Do as I say, not as I do, because I I definitely feel that, but wrestling's always gonna be here, so take care of yourself.
See, with that being said, this Cardi B Jocelyn thing, this is the time.
It
I'm I'm just this is this is for the whole, you can literally use what you just said, and this is the switch. I'm just, as a heel kick,
Hey, it could be, you never know. You
I'm
never
just,
know.
it's this
But
this
y'all
is
just keep an eye out into this year, early next year. Yeah, y'all are gonna see a different Jordan Blade, that's all I'm saying.
okay, okay. Last question before we get out of here. So if you can step out of your own shoes and look at your career as an observer, what impact would you hope people see you having on the world of wrestling?
Yeah, that she did it her way. That everything that people said she needed to do to achieve her dreams, she didn't have to do it that way. So, again, for example, I didn't have to be super femme
Hmm.
in order to get popular, get the opportunities that I got. I didn't have to conform to, what everyone uh, likes in modern wrestling now, which is, I mean, let's be honest, like just a lot of spots and dives and things like that. And hey, props to people who can do that. I'm scared
Hmm.
of heights. I can't do that. I
Hmm.
will look at it from afar and I will marvel at it from afar, and I appreciate people who are able to do that again because
Hmm.
I can't. And then they are providing a type of wrestling, a type of flavor of wrestling that wrestling fans like, and that's them. And I'm providing a flavor of wrestling that I like, that I know other fans like as well.
Hmm.
Um, and I'm doing it my way. I'm not conforming to the status quo. No High School Musical. I'm
And
glad to put
sorry.
it in there. I'm sorry.
Last question, yeah, because you put it out there. I did see on your Instagram you had a list. It was maybe about a year or two ago. So you said Mercedes Martinez is one on that list. Who else? I mean, with this new gimmick that we just put together, who else? Who else is on the who else is on the list?
Yeah, so as far as first timers, Miyu Yamashita is up there. Athena is up there. Um, Riho, who is the current Progress Women's Wrestling Champion. She's coming over to the States. I forgot when she said she's going to be based out of Florida. I think maybe October, she said, but she's on the list.
Okay.
Jordan Grace is on the list. Jonathan Gresham. Uh, if there are wrestling gods out there, myself and Eel versus FTR.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Okay.
I
Okay.
know that's a tall order, but I know that is a match that's a match that I want, and I know it's a match Eel wants to.
Okay. Well, there it is. With that being said, for people who are not following you, where can everybody find you?
You guys can follow me at Jordan_Blade92 on Twitter/X, Instagram, and TikTok.
All right, y'all, and be sure make sure to put like the bell notifications, because when that new gimmick pops off, be a
Yes, we
situation.
popping off, bro.
You just hit that with that promo, like this is that when they have that smoke edit, and then you just appear, and then you start.
That's me.
Just,
That's it right there.
that's and no charge for that. That's all you. You can take that.
All right, fair.
Yeah,
Period. I love that.
yeah,
I'm a starving
just
artist.
tag
Thank
us on it. It's just like yes, because I love a good promo. Anywho, y'all, thanks for following Women's Wrestling Talk. You can follow me everywhere at TK Trinidad. Follow Women's Wrestling Talk everywhere at www.talkpod.com. With that being said, thanks for tuning to Women's Wrestling Talk, the #1 women's wrestling show on the planet. Till next time, guys. Ciao for now.
Thanks for joining WWT. Don't forget to like us on all social media platforms at WW Talk Pod. Like and subscribe on all video and audio platforms, like yesterday, my G. And check out our website at www.talkpod.com. Thanks for watching Women's Wrestling Talk, the #1 women's wrestling network on the planet.